Good morning and welcome to Emerson Institute at City of Light. I'm Reverend Dr. Paul Gratz, and I'm going to be your instructor today for a class on Alchemy, the book that is by author Paul Selig, and it's all about transformation in our lives. We're looking at this wonderful journey of transforming ourselves to the highest and best. It's an exciting journey. It's one where we're really unfolding all that we're called to be and to do in this lifetime. So we encourage you to join us in this study, and I hope you have your notes ready. If you're needing a note packet for any of our classes, please reach out to me at revtpaul@aol.com. Send me an email and let me know of your desire for the note packets to be sent out to you. They'll be out every day prior to the class session. Our registrar, Dr. David Carter, will be sending them out to everyone. So we encourage you to take that note packet right now, get your pen and paper ready, because we're going to dig into an exciting class. Now, to prepare for this class, I'm inviting everyone to join us in a little breathing exercise. We're going to breathe in through our nose, hold for a moment, and release out through our mouth. And we're encouraging those who are joining us in person for our class here in the Dr. Angelo Pizzella Wisdom Center to join us in this breathing exercise. And for you who are joining us through our live streaming in Facebook, as well as through our YouTube channel, City of Light Atlanta. Let's breathe together. Let's just reset our energy to the now, to this moment, to this present experience. Breathe in and release. Deep breath in and release. Deep breath in and release. I'm going to invite you to do something very powerful, and that is to set your intention. Name that desire of what you'd like to experience during this time that we gather together. So in this moment of silence, just whisper, "This is my desire. This is what I intend to experience." And so it is. Well, are you ready for a great class on transformation? I want to say you all look so fantastic. It's great to join with you after taking a week off. So I'm delighted to see everybody here. And for those of you joining us through live streaming, once again, it's great to experience this class session and this study group together. Glad that you've joined us. Alchemy. This is class number 3, and the chapter is The Release of the Past. Now, each of us decides when we are ready to make the change from the idea of who we have been and to reclaim the true self that's been waiting for us. The key thing is, are you ready? And being ready, getting ready. Because this transformation is such a spiritual experience within our life. It is a major shift that we each must take. Jesus called it, "You must be born again to enter into the kingdom." That is a shift. The born-again experience is alchemy. The born-again experience is a transformation. The born-again experience is something that's creative happening within you that is causing a powerful change within your life. That is the born-again experience, where you begin to think in a new direction. You begin to think in a new way. You have a new thought about how you look at life. It is a born-again experience that says, this is a time of new beginnings. I'm starting anew. I am now thinking from a totally different perspective in my life. Too many people have thought that the born-again experience is simply, I accept Jesus into my heart as if I never had this love or this grace or this peace already within me. But what we've forgotten is that we're created in the divine image of God. And in that image, you already have the Jesus. You already have this consciousness. It's already there. It's awaiting you. It's waiting for you to simply acknowledge, to recognize. This is this born-again experience, this shift. I now see who I am. I am a child of God. I am a divine revelation. Now, we have said this over and over again, and you may go, yeah, I get that. But what does that really mean? This is so liberating for us to embrace this truth. It is life transforming because this truth will set you free from so many things that you're experiencing in this world that are holding you back from your highest and best. This truth will set you free from fear. It'll set you free from worry, stress, and doubt. Set you free from any kind of sense of lack and separation. It's going to liberate you when you realize, I am the divine. I am this expression of God. Yes, we talk about it, that we symbolize it like a diamond. You know how a diamond has many different facets on it? And the light reflects differently as you turn that diamond, and the light sparkles and bounces off of it. So it is that we're each part of this one diamond that we call the divine, and we're each a different facet. You're unique, you're unique, you're unique, and each one of us are reflecting the divine light of God in our own unique way. All facets of one diamond. But the key is, when we are ready, we'll make this decision. Now, a lot of people in spirituality and religion in particular, and in churches, are like forcing people to get ready. You need to get ready to accept this thought right now, and we're going to force you to get ready. We're going to manipulate you to get ready, because if you don't think this way, you'll burn in hell. You're going to be lost. You'll be left behind. No, but God won't love you. You won't be this. You won't be that. All this exclusionary, fear-based language, just trying to manipulate people into getting ready. But that's a choice we each have to make on our own. And not everyone is ready. We must understand that too. John chapter 13, verse 13 through 16 says, Jesus says, you call me teacher and Lord, and you're right, for so I am. Jesus, our great teacher, our way shower. If then the Lord and the teacher wash your feet, so also you ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example. Okay? What do we find here? Jesus is calling himself the example for our lives. Jesus is teaching, showing us the way. He said, I am the way, not he personally, but is teaching. The I am, the divine within him, is revealing the way to an abundant life. He is our example. He's our way shower. We look at Luke 12, verse 40. It says, you must also be ready, for the Son of Man, meaning get ready for this teaching, for this example, is coming at an hour when you don't expect. So there's these wonderful opportunities for you to have God moments, aha moments, these great discoveries. The light bulb goes on. They go, whoa, I get it. These wonderful revelations of the Holy Spirit teaching and unfolding for you powerful truth in your life. Get ready. I see a hand going up over here. Dr. Carter, do you have a question or comment?
Yes. Can you explain the metaphor of Jesus saying, I've washed your feet and you should also do as I do and wash you others' feet? What is the metaphor and what does it mean?
Well, he's giving us an example of servanthood. Jesus humbled himself to be the one who would wash feet of guests coming in. Now, we understand in the desert culture of the Middle East, people walked around with sandals in sandy, dirty environment of the desert culture. When they arrived at your home, it was appropriate for you to slip off your sandals and a servant to be there to do the lowly act of washing those stinky feet that aren't so pretty. You know, they've been walking out there with just little sandals and, they're now, smelly and sweaty and all this kind of stuff. And nobody wanted that job. Excuse me, I'm above that. I don't wash other people's feet, they would say. Where Jesus took the towel of the servant, throwing it over his shoulders, and knelt down to wash the feet of those and said, this is the example. If I, your teacher, can humble myself to wash your feet, so you ought to humble yourself to be a servant of others around you. And
could it broadly be looked at in terms of their journey, their feet that are walking on their journey, and the cleansing of Christ? Combined with what you're saying.
Oh, definitely. No, I love that metaphorical concept as we look at how this passage might speak to us. The feet is that which we are grounded on. Right. And here's the washing of that grounding to cleanse it, to remove all the debris. And this is something we do for one another, is that we help people find a firm foundation in their spiritual life through our witness, through our example, through the love we share. We are actually washing feet, washing the foot that is grounded on that soil, the grounding, the foundation. You know, the scripture says, beautiful are the feet of those who preach the gospel. That doesn't mean all preachers have gorgeous feet. No, I'll tell you that. That is not true. What it simply means is that the feet are standing on ground, on holy ground, and that acknowledgement. When you preach the gospel, that's your grounding. And this is why people will often say, where you are right now, slip your shoes off, you're on holy ground. This is the moment right where you are to acknowledge your grounding. I am in the foundation. Does that help you, Dr. Crowder? Great. So what we find is Jesus offering us an example. So Jesus being an example, Jesus being a teacher, and we must ready for this example and this teaching to come to our lives at any moment. 1 Peter 1:13 says, therefore, preparing your minds for action and being sober-minded, set your hope fully on the grace that will be brought to you at the revelation or the understanding of Jesus Christ. Norma, you have a question.
Yes, it talks like this is going to be a sudden thing, but it can also be something that you slowly build up to, isn't it?
Definitely. And I think what it's really talking about is that there's this realization, and then there's the growth within that realization. Yes. It says that talks about even this very understanding may come to you in the twinkling of an eye. Like, aha. You know, ever have this moment like, I get it now. Happens in a moment, like a twinkling of an eye, like just like that. Now I understand. But you grow in that understanding, grow deeper and deeper and deeper, what it means as it unfolds for you. And then Acts chapter 1, verse 11 says, which also said, ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing into heaven? This same Jesus, Jesus being the example, not that Jesus the body, but the example of Jesus, the very revelation, his teaching, which has been removed from you, is going to come in like manner. It's ascended into a higher consciousness. It's coming down from a higher consciousness for you. Now, too many people have taken this literally. All this, we've got to get ready for Jesus is coming in the clouds to take away a select group, a small group of people. And instead, what we've missed in the literalism is that spirit of Jesus comes every day. Are you ready for it? Get ready. Because when you're ready and you make the choice to say, I want to experience my highest and best, I want to understand truly the depths of what it means to be a child of God. I want to fully understand my divinity. And what does that mean to be an expression of the divine? What does that really mean? I want that. That's the beginning. That's your beginning, and you're ready for a new revelation. Dr. Carter has a comment.
So I actually have a question. So when the phrase that says, which is taken up from you into heaven, that means from your physical being to your higher consciousness?
Yes, taken from you, and it's elevated. You know, you've been looking at this Jesus, which was in the physical body, has now ascended into the heaven, which is this consciousness. So this same teacher, the same essence of Jesus, the same power of Jesus's way-showing ability in our lives is now coming down in a higher consciousness to our lives. We're going to experience it, for heaven is within each and every one of us. And heaven is that greater understanding. Heaven is this higher thinking consciousness, not a consciousness of lower negativity, fear, doubt, and questioning, but heaven is this place of eternal peace and rest and calm and assurance and comfort and joy and love. That's all in a higher consciousness, an awareness. I get it. I can live in heaven today, right here and now, when I begin to acknowledge it. Anne.
Selig's first channel book, The Word, they refer to it as the Christ consciousness. And that puts it in, that reminds me of you saying to us, you have the mind of Christ, use it.
Yes.
But they call it, that's how they term it, the Christ consciousness.
Right. Heaven being the Christ consciousness. Yeah. Yes. Beautiful. Thank you, Anne. So we're ready for a new revelation. Well, here, let's begin then. This true self, that is the divine within you on page 2, this created, that you've been created in the image and likeness of God, that's what we're talking about. You are created with all the love, grace, peace, compassion that you need. You came equipped with it. You came in the likeness of God. God's full extent of all things being possible, that's the energy within you. It's time for us to claim it. And it is revealed when we are born again, when we begin to think in this new way, when we begin to embrace a new thought. It is this change that enables us to experience what the author is calling a reunification, being reunited with that which is already there. It's always been there, but you're going, oh, wait a minute. I realize my divine goodness. I begin to see not what the world wants to constantly point out. You're wrong. You're bad. You're a sinner. You're evil. You're terrible. You're not normal. All these kind of things. And yet, everything that the spiritual teaching is offering us is you're beautiful. You're divine. You're loving. You're kind. That's your true self. The author calls your small self, or your human ego within our life, that we may see ourselves from a small perspective versus seeing ourselves from the larger divine perspective. All right.
So the reunification is sort of like the pot shattering.
Oh, I love that. Yes, great illustration. Because we talk about in our lifetime from the Kabbalah teaching that we are this great light that has come into this world when we're birthed into this world. But slowly, the world around us in its teaching has taught us fear, doubt, hate, worry, stress, like a covering that starts to cloud out that light, like a covering that comes over us, called the klipot, or the covering over our life. And we're called to break through, shatter that. You know, it's like I always picture like the Dairy Queen cone, you know, that wonderful creamy ice cream dipped in chocolate. It's got a shell over it, and you can't see any bit of that creamy white chocolate that's in, or ice cream that's in there, the deliciousness. It's all covered with this chocolate. But when you crack that open, all of a sudden it begins to come through that shell, right? Well, that's like this klipot that's covering our life, a shell that's hindering us from our true awareness that we are an amazing child of God, divinely created. You are the incredible revelation of God for this moment. We are. You see, we haven't been taught to think that way. How have we been taught to think? I'm limited. I'm not very good. I'm inferior. I'm not capable. I'm separate from everybody. I'm not loved. You could go on and on. What the world teaches us that creates this shell about our life that hinders this wonderful reunification of our true nature. And
is this a high teaching within the Kabbalah? Because before I understood what that meant, I asked several people that I knew were Jewish if they could explain it, and they'd never heard of it. So is it something that's advanced within Judaism?
Yes. Kabbalah is ancient Jewish spiritual teaching.
Okay.
It is the mysticism that so many, just like there is Christian mysticism, you know, it is the deeper understanding of the mystic approaches of teaching of the divine. And our problem is so many of us in our religions, no matter what they may be, we're on the surface level, and there's so much deeper to be understood. This is why we're called to a life of study, not a life of just, hey, I went to Sunday school at age 6, I'm done, you know, or I went through up to catechism till 6th grade, I'm finished. It's a life of study. It's going deeper and deeper and deeper, you know, into spiritual truth. So this is the resurrection of the true self that we buried in the tomb of our living. You know, here's a beautiful example. Jesus, the resurrected Christ, the resurrected one, where the stone has been rolled away and he breaks forth from the tomb that may encapsulate him, or a tomb of death. So it is in our own life. We're all living in a tomb that we put ourselves in by the choices we've made. and we've rolled a stone over the covering, and we've encapsulated our life. But hallelujah, it's time for us to have an Easter Sunday and roll the stone away and come forth out of that tomb with a realization of who we are. We're this divine revelation. That's who we are. We are the Christ consciousness revealed. We are this one who truly understands we're divine by nature. That's who we really are. But instead, we've embraced the stone that's rolled in front of the tomb by society's ideas, society's teaching, the world's ideas, what we've been taught. We've been taught fear, which holds us in prison. We've been taught doubt. We've been taught stress. We've been taught hate. We've been taught, a lot of stuff that just seems to roll over the doorway and we can't get out of this tomb. So we often seek to reclaim this true self, and we want to do it through the world's ideas of what we should be and what we should look like. So we're like, how do I reclaim the fact that I'm a child of God? But we always want to image it sometimes in what the world thinks you should be. And here's class today is all about the word should. We're going to learn some shoulds. And we want to get rid of the shoulds today. Because we're called to release the expectations, the shoulds of what have been put on us. Expectations. Well, you should know better. You should live differently. You should just know. We're just, and you should change what you're doing. And you should be totally different than who you are. And all the shoulds that the world wants to put us on, the expectation of what we should be and how we should act. We've been living out a replication of the ideas that were assumed through past incarnations, your past lives, the shoulds. Well, you should do this, and you should have been that. Yes. And how about we've got these ideas through circumstances and through this whole lifetime and the choices we made and the world's thinking of saying, well, everyone should, and you're not doing what you should. And you see, that's what holds us back, because we're trying to form our life around the shoulds of others.
Those should sound like more control. It's part of the
Right.
control, isn't it?
Yes, and what we're going to talk about is that these shoulds really are like labels that people want to put on you. A label, well, if you're a Christian, you should, and we're going to put that label. Well, if you go to church, you should, and you should do this, and you should do that, and you should. And it's kind of like a lot of guilt and shame that people want to put on you, Well, if you're in our family, you should be straight. And lo and behold, I'm gay. So they put a label on me with a big should. You should have been, and you should know better, and you should be doing these things. Instead, you're not fitting in with the label of society's norms and what you should be. And so we find, a lot of people saying, well, you should have, gone to college, and you should have done this. And it's all people's expectations, and it's their judgments and their condemnation. We're going to talk more about that. Yes.
All these shoulds and stuff, it just seems to me it's trying to eliminate the free will that the universe gave us.
Definitely.
And I'm reading so much about free will,
Right.
that they're trying to suppress that,
Right.
Well, like you said, it's about control.
It is about control, definitely, I think.
Yeah.
And that's fear.
So as you align yourself to your true nature and you're awakening to this God within you, you will begin to witness the divine in everyone you meet. Wow. Now think about that. Once you see the God presence within you and who you really are, you can't help, because it's going to shift your vision, your whole outlook. It's going to shift your thinking. It's going to shift your consciousness. That you're going to begin to see the divine in others. The problem is, in our world today, we're not teaching people how to see the divine in themselves. What we're teaching is to see you're a sinner, with lots of S's. I love that. It makes it more guilty and more, punishing, like a snake hissing at you. You're a sinner. And that's what we're teaching. Instead of teaching, you are divine creation. So when we come from this thought process of always being at fault, always being not good, always being missing the mark, always being that, we embrace all of then the societal shoulds, guilt, control, manipulation that they want to put on us. And
you know what, this morning's reading in Science of Mind magazine, it's the first time I've read this, but it said something like, once you see the divinity in others, you can see it in yourself. And that's the first time I've ever read it. It's always, you have to see it in yourself first, and then you can see it in others. But that kind of freed me up, because you can make a choice to see it in others, and eventually, whammo, it hits you. You are divine also, as you look at others that are divine. That freed me up a lot.
wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
So what happens when you come to this divine awakening? You will see clearly that God is. God is all there is, and all is God. I want to tell you this. We're invited to remove labels and to begin to see our world label-free. We're invited to a journey where we're going to remove all the shoulds of what people should do and see everyone as God is. The tree, we put a label on it, we call it a tree, but really it is God. We see the squirrel, we put a label on it, we call it a squirrel, but it's God. We see the birds, we put a label on them, we call it a robin, a canary, we call it a finch, whatever, but it's God. And we look at one another, we see woman, man, but they are God. We see black, white, Hispanic, Asian, but they are God. But we put the labels on, we put the masks on, we put the shoulds on in each one of those cases as well. Lethe.
You know, you said that we need to teach folks to see the divine in themselves and in others. But you know, from my observation, it's unfortunate that I have it in my family. The teachers, they don't know this. They really do not know this. They're seeing something totally different. So they're, from their heart, they're teaching what they believe, where, you know, we have choice. Can either believe that or this?
Right.
But they really don't know any better. I honestly don't think so.
That's true, because what's happening so much in today's American religion, Christianity, fundamentalism, evangelicalism, etc., is, again, the approach is from fear. Fear says you are sinful and you will miss out on God, versus love that says you were created in the image and likeness of God. And so your very birthing into this world is the beauty of being a revelation of God. Unfortunately, the world has created that clay pot, that shell over you that's diminished this divine light, but you're called to break through it and release what's in you. So what we find in the evangelical teachings versus any other spirituality is that evangelicalism says, let me get Jesus and pull him in, versus I was born with Christ consciousness, let me release it out. So we need to put it in because we're filthy and rotten and we're sinners. So we need to get something in that will try to cleanse us, instead of realizing that we're already innately this wonderful, like the Dairy Queen cone, this creamy, delicious ice cream. We just got to break through the chocolate barrier. That's all. You'll see, there's a simple illustration of our lives that already what's in you is good. I'm going to tell you this. You know, little children, they already know love. They know peace, they know calm, they know trust, they know all these things. But the shell of being taught in this world, you need to be afraid. Watch out when you go out the street. Look both ways. Someone's going to get you. Be careful of that stranger. Watch out for this. The fear is taught to the child. And before you know it, that shell begins to cover over and over and over and coat deeper and deeper in that covering of the light of the divine and the truth that's deep within them. I often laugh and say, you know, on the first day of school, how many parents walk their children to the bus and say, honey, be careful. Now look both ways when you cross the street, and, you know, watch out when you get on the bus, and be careful and be safe and watch out. Or do they say, Hey, kids, go on, get on that bus, take some risks, go out there and, it's going to be a dynamic day. You can do this. It's amazing. Parents are going to instill fear and all kinds of questions and wondering for the child instead of instilling you're a fabulous kid. Get out there. It's going to be dynamic today. You're going to be exceptional. We put them on the bus with fear, and they got on the bus and they're terrified what their first day of school would be. Instead of saying, this is your opportunity to shine. This is your opportunity to radiate. Get out there and do this. So as you align with this wonderful teaching, this insight, this awareness will bring about a greater understanding of truth. It's like a banquet table, There is this wonderful banquet table that it's like a buffet. It's like, honey, you have just gone to Golden Corral. That's right. There's truth here and truth here and truth here. Just pick up your plate and start loading it up with all kinds of insight that's there available for you. There is nothing that's being withheld from you, okay? So, for we do not live in any kind of scarcity or lack in the divine. So, all wisdom is available to you, And I want to tell you this. There's so many times we haven't tapped into this insight that the Spirit of God is always speaking, always teaching, and that the ability to come to the buffet of wisdom and knowledge is available. But how many times do we say, I can't, I don't get it, I'm too stupid, I'll never understand, this is not possible, it's above my pay grade. Some people say it's above my ability. I'm not, able to grasp this idea. So we buy into that. And what are we doing? We're closing the door. We're closing the door to the buffet. That's right, of wisdom. But how about we open that door back up and we just say, wisdom is coming to me and I'm receiving this. I can figure this out. You see, it's our own self-doubt and our fears, some of our laziness to be challenged. It always plays out in our mind. And we got to release all that because there is an ability of the divine to be revealed to us in great ways. Now, you're called to move beyond the ideas or things that you've agreed to, that you've accepted in this world. Because let me tell you, we've accepted a lot of stuff. We accepted what? We're inferior. We've accepted ideas like we're not good enough. We've accepted ideas, anyone here went through life that you never felt like you were not good enough, right? Okay, all of us have experienced. Somewhere in life, someone told us you are not good enough, whether it be high school, junior high, whether it be in college, whether it be your husband telling you that, whether it be your wife or your spouse, whatever, something told you you're not good enough. So we all know that we've agreed and we've accepted some of this. Things like, I should be beautiful, but I don't feel beautiful. I should. Because the world thinks I should be. In other words, I should be a size 0, but I'm not a size 0. I should have, this flat stomach, but I don't. I should have a 6-pack. Instead, I have a keg. Right. See, but all this inferior stuff, and we take this on, and they become our labels, and then they separate us because we believe that the label that society has put on us is who we are. And our culture puts these labels, and these labels are all based on a should. Because we're not really bound by these ideas, but we think we are. And we can be liberated from these ideas of what we should be and come to understand who we truly are. For this realization comes at a cost of what we think we should be. You see, we keep thinking what we should be, and that's holding us back from this realization. So let's get rid of the shoulds, okay? And let's just stop thinking, not that I should be this way, should be that way, should do this, should do that. No, let's just start with, I'm a divine expression of God. The all good is in me, through me, around me, and for me. Start there. We're not trying to be holy or to become holy, because I want to tell you this, you already are holy. What? People want to say, what? I'm already holy? What do you mean? How can you say someone else is holy or this person's holy when they act that way and they should be doing different? They should be acting a different way. They should be living a different life. You're telling me they're holy and they were already holy? Yes. Deep within is holy. Deep within is the divine. The kingdom of heaven is within you. That kingdom is this consciousness, this awareness. You already are amazing. You already are holy, and that means complete. But you have to accept that. You have to wake up to that. You have to acknowledge that. You have to let that holiness out that's already in. Not try to, I got to try to be holy. Oh, I'm going to read 6 passages of the Bible every day. I'm going to pray every hour on the hour. I'm going to go to church every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'll be at every revival. I'll be this. I'm going to be holier than thou. I can quote scripture at the moment's notice, drop of a hat. That's not being holy. Well, what it is realizing your completeness. You're whole. W-H-O-L-E. That's what holy is. Not better than. Holy is simply meaning you're complete. So realize that you are already there. Our cry in this journey to re-know who we are, to be reunited with who we are, to resurrect who we are, is, God, let me know who I am beyond these shoulds, beyond these creations, beyond the world's thinking, beyond what other people think I should be and should do. Let me know who I am. And who you are is this divine revelation. Now, this collective society, your culture around you, has decided what you should aspire to, haven't they? You should do this, right? And it's based on these components of our relationship. People base the shoulds that they put on you based on, well, how do you meet my needs? Well, you should be taking care of me. You should be providing for me. You should be, acting better. You should have a job. You should be working. You should be paying more. You should be doing this because that's how my needs are met, because it's about me. And that's the basis of the shoulds people want. Like my parents, well, you should be straight because we're Christians. And because you're gay, we think you're evil. You should be. Well, what's wrong with you? Why are you not? These shoulds we're dumping on you is that you should be because we're embarrassed. We're humiliated because our son is gay. And how do we respond? How do we explain that to our congregation, to our friends, that we have a gay child because he should be straight, but he's not? And you see, they're putting the shoulds that would make them happy. And the shoulds have no consideration about my life and who I am and how I see my life and how I was born and how I believe I should live my life out. You see, their shoulds, they want to dump on me and make me feel bad because I'm not doing their shoulds. Okay?
So you're saying basically that all these shoulds is really about them.
Yes, a lot. That's one part.
Yeah.
Because it's about how I want to see you.
Yeah.
Yes. Like you should get your hair cut, because I want to see you with your hair cut.
Yeah,
You should lose weight because I want to see you lose weight, right? It's the shoulds of what I want for you, right? And people do that to us all the time. It's because what they want in life. Not saying, you could say, well, no, I'm happy with the way I am. I want to wear my hair the way I wear it. Now, I should. See, the shoulds are about how someone else, what are you doing for me and how's it meeting for me? And the shoulds are how others perceive you in the light of society's thinking. Mm-hmm. So, if you're going to look like that, society isn't going to accept you. You should look differently. You should act differently because you should be something other than what you are, because that's how society thinks is the right thing for you, So, and what is the meaning of these things, of all these shoulds? Again, these shoulds that people want to put on you are leading you away from who you really are. Because what do they want to do? Make you suddenly feel guilty, shameful, fearful, not good enough, all these kind of things, because of all the shoulds that others want to dump on you. So the divine is always present. So you cannot label it with a should. God is always in you. So you can't label with a should, because to make it a should is to deny what it is. For someone to say, because you're not straight and you're gay and you should be straight, you're not a child of God. But what they're actually saying is, I don't see the God that is in you, that you were created in that image and likeness, because you don't fit society's norms. You don't fit my comfortability. You don't fit my perception. Because you don't fit any of that, I say, you're not good. And I'm going to should you, with stuff that you should be doing, because I'm embarrassed that you're not. And when we put a should on someone, we're denying the God that's already within them. We're denying and saying, I can't see the God in you. All as I see is what you should be doing and not what you are. And that's our problem in the world. Let's let go of the shoulds. Let's let go of the labels. And let's just see people for who they are. They're divine. They're good. And when we begin to see the good, we speak the good. We call forth the good. We ignite the good. We bring more of the good out, right? That child that's been acting up, and you call it a little brat, is really a beautiful light. But the klipot, the covering of its own fears and insecurities, are acting out in the way of being a brat. But when you sit with that child and you love that child and you see the divine good in that child and you speak that child, you is good, you is important. What is the line?
You is smart.
You is smart, from the movie The Help, where the help, the servant, spoke this to the child, the maid speaking that affirmation and bringing that out. You're calling that what I see. I see God in you, and I'm recognizing it, and I'm speaking it. I see the love in you, and I call it out. And what happens when you call it out, you name it, becomes present, and the child begins to say, I'm smart, I'm good, I'm important. Wow. You see, and that klipot is shattered and broken through, and the light of the divine begins to rise. That's what we do as people of God. We call forth the divine that we see in each and every one. I see divinity in you. I see goodness in you. I see God revealed in you. I see it, and then we say it in forms like, you are so loving and kind. I appreciate that. The way that you work with the homeless is beautiful. Thank you for serving in that way. You see what we're doing? We're saying we're calling forth the God, the good in each and every one, which enables people and builds them up and edifies them to the point where they want to do more. And I think we got a question over here, a comment.
Just my comment. The guides are channeling that when you realize your true self, then you can see it in others.
Right.
But it's saying you have to realize it in yourself first,
I
not
think
see it in somebody else. You got to realize it in you, because you got to know it before you can even name it or claim it in somebody else.
That's because I think I have learning disabilities, and I usually come in through a different door.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't, to me, that's not an absolute statement. But I don't think everybody sees it the way I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's very, very
Right. Because the more we acknowledge something in our own life,
right.
the more we can see it easier
Right,
in
that's
someone
true.
else's life.
It's true with love.
Right. When I realize, maybe some of the experiences I've gone through, I can see and relate greater to someone else. So as an example, the passing of Robert and that experience of dealing with death and caregiving, I now see things differently in other people because I saw it in me. I saw firsthand what that experience is. So when people today, I received a note from someone who just lost their mother last night, a friend of mine. And it was like, I see, I know. I can see it because I experienced it in me. I can know what you're experiencing in you. I can relate. So when we have this ability of acknowledge something within ourselves, we have a greater ability to see it in others, and we can relate. And, we may see people that the world says, well, they're not the divine, that's for sure. They're not the light of God. Boy, look at them, how they act and how crazy they are and how wild they are and everything like that. Remember, you're looking at the klipot. You're looking at the shell.
Yeah.
You're looking at the chocolate covering on the ice cream cone. Let's just crack that through. And how do you crack it through? By calling forth the ice cream, calling forth the good. That's what we do. And
I don't know if anybody else sees it this way, but you know what Emerson said, in order to have a friend, you need to be a friend.
Exactly.
And so, you know, I can see that working in this, what we're talking about now. And so to be a friend, to see the divine in another, it comes to you. It can come to you that way too.
yes,
Either way, it's the same as the rock.
You first.
The rock that's standing in the way of Christ coming out of the tomb.
Uh-huh.
It's rolling it away makes it come out. So
Yes.
the movement of rolling it away first then allows it to come out.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's your awakening.
I love your process thinking, Anne. We're stretching it out. We're processing it out. We're
Yeah.
analyzing it.
That's just how it means, what it means to me.
Yeah.
You
Good.
know, how I can put it together.
I love it.
But we can also recognize goodness or intelligence or talent or whatever in somebody that's really got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see it without being talented, you can recognize it.
Right. Exactly.
Good.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is stop seeing the world through the eyes of our shoulds, our judgments, and our condemnation. Because when we condemn or judge, it's based on the labels that we put on others, and we accept what says, he should be this or she should be that. So what we're doing is we're actually judging and condemning rather than seeing the potential, seeing the good that's innately within them. And like, oh my God, some of these people are so bad. Pastor, you telling me there's good? Yeah, there's good in everyone. There's good in every prisoner in the prison system today. Everyone who's broken the law, every crime, every criminal, everyone who's committed a murder, there's divine. There's a spark of the divine in everyone that needs to be drawn out, pulled out, needs to bring up forth this reconstruction, shall we say, of that inner child, pulling it out and reclaiming it and allowing that light to shine and radiate. And
So in psychology, Carl Rogers, this is his paradigm, that there's good in everyone and that you give them unconditional regard. Is
Right.
what they call it. Yeah.
you know, we all start out with the same good,
Yeah.
the same God, the same divine. It's just how much of the kleepot is dumped on us, how much of what we've accepted, how much of the teachings of this world of limitation and separation and fear that we've embraced. Some, I believe through many incarnations on this earth, have learned to push it off, shove it off, break it off, repel it off. Why is it some people are not as fearful as others? Yet others, in their journey of their pathway, are still embracing more fear and more experiences that they have to work through. Everyone's on their own journey. So let's remove the judgments and saying, you should be on my path. Yeah, because my path's the right path. And I know everything, and I'm the brilliant one. We have people who have that attitude. We have churches that have that attitude. My way's the right way, your way's the wrong way. You're not on my path, I won't have anything to do with you. I cut you off because you're not on my path. Well, wait a minute. None of us are on the same path. I love this. And someone said, we're not all in the same boat, but we're all in the same storm. That's the difference. We're not all in the same boat, but we are all in the same storm of experience. We're all in the same world, okay? Some boats are being tossed. Some boats are better equipped. Some boats have this. Some boats have that. Some boats are sinking and some boats are sailing on. We're not all in the same boat. We're all on the same seas, the same waters, the same storm of life, whatever it may be that you want to call it. You see, we're on different pathways. So why would we judge someone or condemn someone who has a different path than us? Let's stop with the shoulds, that they should be on our path, and let's just love them for the divine that they are. Yes, Lethe.
I hear what you're saying, and I believe what you're saying, but I believe it's a little bit strong there, because I'm thinking as a parent where I I do use the word should when they're growing up. But when they're older, you know, it's their thing. So at some point in our lives, I think we have to give some sort of guidance with a should or whatever word we want to use.
Yes. Oh, I'm all believing about the guidance, but how about instead of the should, how about could? You could instead of should.
Okay.
Could offers possibilities. Should says I'm judging and offering guilt and saying, you shouldn't do that. You should have done this. You should be this. You know, instead of like, you know, I have a friend whose father said, you know, he was number 3 in the state and in basketball in the state of Tennessee, 3rd highest scorer. And what happens is the father says, you should have been number 1. How about you could be number 1? You see, big difference in instructing. Not you should, or you should have been, and if you can't, but how about you could? You could be number 1. You see how we shift? We can instruct, we can guide without putting some sort of label, some sort of guilt, some sort of shame, some sort of expectation that is encapsulated in what we want. But how about what you could be? See? So how about we embrace that as the guidance that we can get? The moment we say they should is a moment that we change everything into a future expectation of what should be, and we're not seeing each other as we are right now. That's right. Like, you should be smarter. You should be this or that. You should be a better student. You should be whatever. All these shoulds. How about right now? Right now, I see you as divine. Right now, I see you as, I see the light of God in you. I want to look deep into the soul of you. Not the shoulds, but what you are. Not what we're expecting you to be, but what you are right now in this moment. And right now in this moment, there's good. And we go, wait a minute, you're going to tell me there's good in that little brat, that child who's acting up and sassy, that needs a whipping, that needs to have some good punishment and put in the corner? You're going to tell me I should call out the light of Christ in them? Yeah, I'm saying stop what you expect that child to be someday and acknowledge what they are right now. Because the now that you call forth will shape the tomorrows. Right?
You know what? That's just like prayer treatment. It's not for them, it's for us. When we say a prayer treatment, it's for our belief, so that the person we're praying for can see that in us.
Yes.
And thus believe that also. And that's the same, you're saying the same thing.
Raising a child is like treatment. You're right.
Yeah.
I begin to see the good in my child, and the child hears, you see good in me? And the child goes, oh, wait a minute. Well, there's good in me? Oh, I could live out good? I could be a better child. I could behave better. I could be kinder and nicer. You see it already in me? Not, you should learn to be better. No, you are. And, you know, it is that wonderful acknowledgement of what you are right now in this moment. Because what you are right now calls out the highest and best in everyone. Wow. This is how raising a child is so different than what we're doing today. Yes, Dr.
Diane
Carter.
Mundine.
Yes.
Her question is, how do you deal with okay, my screen just went blank. How do you deal with an alcoholic loved one who is destroying themselves? Should or could?
Yes. Well, again, we want to remove the shoulds. Diane, great comment. Thank you very much. We want to remove the idea because the alcoholic, what are they doing? They're adding more to their kleepot, shall we say. They're more of that coating. They're trying to cover up all of the guilt and the shame and the shoulds that have been imparted on them. You're not good enough. You're a loser. You're bad. You're going through stress. You're going through worry. You're all these kind of, I need to drink to cover this up and escape all this. Alcohol is an escapism. So let's get them to say, you don't need to escape. Let's discover the amazing person that's already deep within you. Let's discover the God in you. And you can, I believe this. I'm believing in your highest and best and helping to break through that shell of all the fear and doubt and questioning and hopelessness that they've embraced, that they find their only solace in alcohol and in escapism. I want to escape from this world and the stress and having to deal with it. You know? I know of someone who is rearing children and it's a lot of stress and pressure on them all day long. And so what do they say? Well, I just decided at the end of the day, I'll have a beer, maybe 2 beers. Okay, 4 beers, maybe a 6-pack. Okay, why not? 8 or 9, okay, 10. I drank all night, and what they ended up was just, I found that this was just escapism to help me deal with the stress instead of like saying, wait a minute, let's deal with what the core issue is. What is it that you're running or you're trying to escape from? People say, oh, but it's some me time. And that's sometimes often the excuse that they're using for running from something. They're saying that, yes, and.
You know what? It's scary to go within a lot of times. And that, I think, is because no one else has pointed out the beauty that's in you. And so some people, instead of looking at what you're saying, they're covering it up instead of going within. And it is scary. I've been scared to ask myself things, but it's not dangerous or anything, and it's really worth doing.
Right.
I think.
I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to go to therapy or a psychologist because they're going to go deep within, and all they're going to deal with is my hurts. Versus a type of soul psychology that says when we go within, we ignite the power of the flame of love and kindness and goodness. And the soul psychology is what the Bible's all about, teaching you the good that's in you. That's what Scripture is all about, not the bad that you are, the good that you are. And it's trying to reveal to you this wonderful journey of discovery. Jesus being our great example, his life, a life of discovery of the divinity within him, that he called himself the Son of Man, meaning earthly, and also the Son of God, meaning divine. You too are a son of man, daughter of man. You're a son of God, a daughter of God. That's who you are. And Jesus coming to this full discovery and this revelation is the evolution that's there for us to travel, this wonderful journey of evolution, of evolving, of the soul psychology, evolving to discover the good that's within us, the power that's within us, the strength that's already in you. We've been thought when we go within, we're going to find out all the bad that's within us.
Yeah.
Just go within and find out and start releasing the good that's in you. Start saying, you know what? I'm patient. And you go, well, not really, but wait a minute. I'm going to start saying I am patient instead of like I'm impatient. I'm patient because there's patience within me. And I'm stop owning this I am impatient. No, I am patient because it's there. I'm loving. You say, well, not always, because I've been kind of a monster. I could use another word starts with B, but to others. But I am not that. Instead, I am loving. You see, let's start claiming and affirming the divinity within us, the good that's there. And I think it's really important you go around the house and talk to yourself a little bit. That's right. I encourage you maybe to be alone, but I think it's really good to tell yourself these things because sometimes friends might think you're a little crazy. Or, if you get caught talking to yourself in the grocery store, just pretend like you got earbuds in. Oh, yeah, I'll call you back later. Yeah. Bye. I'm shopping right now. Yeah, right. You can just disguise it, but here's what I'm saying. Go ahead and talk to yourself and start telling, I'm good. I'm equipped with all goodness. I'm loving. I'm kind. I'm gracious. The world is trying to tell you everything you're not. You start telling everything you are. Let's just turn the tables around. And start walking around the house. I'm beautiful. I'm fabulous. I'm this. I'm that. It's not ego. It's acknowledgement of who you are. It's about acknowledgement of the divinity, the power within you that's there. I am the divine. I am God in this moment. And I am showing to the world what God looks like. That's right. That's what I'm going to do today. So when we realize our true self, we see true self in others and we release the labels. Let me tell you this. It's we begin to love as God does unconditionally. Because let me tell you what happens is when we don't see God in ourselves, we can't see God in someone else, and unconditional love just went out the window. That's right. All of a sudden there's this, I'll love you if. I'll love you when you should do what I want you to do. I'll love you when you take on this label that I want you to put on. You know, I want you to be something this. Because when we release all these labels, we realize this person is not white. This person is not a Republican. This person is not a lawyer. This person is not an alcoholic. This person isn't a thief. What are they? They're all God. And we start to realize that what we're seeing is God. We're not seeing the labels anymore. Let go of the labels. Let go of those things. Anything you place above God or separate from this divine truth becomes an adversarial relationship with you. You claim something as being outside of the revelation of God, and then you believe that you are not one with it, and you separate yourself. So people do this all the time. You're not on my path. You're not doing what I want. You're not what I believe you should be. You're not following the label I want you to have. So I cut you off. I separate from you. I don't want anything to do with you. And what you've done is just you've created an adversarial relationship with that person or that thing, because you're saying it's not what I want, what I believe you should be, not what works for me. So there's an adversarial condition. When you have claimed someone outside of God, that's right. This means when we start seeing you're a sinner, you're a sinner. I see you as a sinner. I see you as outside of God. What happens is then we've decided what should be for that person. And I will define you as I feel you should be, and I will love you or not love you based on my definition. You know, if you're not meeting up to my expectation of what you should be, then I've cut you off, and I feel that, you're an adversary. And we've created this tension in lives because of the labels we put on someone, because they're not what we think they should be. So, what happens is, I'll use this very personal one. My ex-wife, she feels that my son should keep a tidier house. And because he doesn't keep a tidy house, she's like, I can't stand to go over there. And I don't want to be over there. She believes he shouldn't drink. And because he drinks, I don't want to go there. I'm going to cut it off. She says, because, he smokes. I don't believe in smoking. So he should quit. So I'm not going over there. And what happens is now that she's created a distance between her son, and they live 15 miles away. They could be there in fellowship, but instead she shows up when she has to deal with all these feelings, and it's more a condemnation. You should, but I'll endure the fact that you're not doing what I want or what I believe. You see, we create this adversarial condition. My heart aches for both my ex-wife and son on this relationship that's based on the labels of what we think should be there. Now I want to tell you this. All things, all people are divine, and all is good. Remove the labels of separation, and we begin to see everything as it truly is. And this is the beginning of loving God, loving your neighbor as yourself. Well, wow, we all think we know how to love God? Oh, yes. Oh, my God, I sang 6 hymns the other day. I love God. I sing in the church choir, and we just praise, praise, praise. I got a tambourine. I love God. Oh, I wave flags in church. I'm a flag dancer in church, and I love God. This is all about loving God. That's not loving God, okay? That's you acting out your own form of what you call as worship. But loving God is seeing the divine in everyone. Because I'm going to flip back to the last page just real quickly because it hits this right now. John chapter 1, verse 4, 6, and 8. It says, we are from God. Not you're from God and I'm not, or I'm from God and you're not. We are from God. How can we be from God and still be of a sinful nature then? Because you're from God, you're beautiful, you're divine, you're equipped. Now, you may have fallen short of that beauty, but it's still there. Whoever knows and knows God listens to us, the writer is saying. For whoever is not of God does not listen. They dismiss. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that you're of God and I'm, because you're not what you should be, or you're not what I want you to be, or you're not embracing this label. That is how we know that the spirit of truth and the spirit of deception. People are saying, I go to church. I'm a pastor's wife or pastor's son, or I'm a preacher myself, but I'm in judgment of everybody else and I'm in condemnation of everybody else. And this is how we know that they're in the spirit of deception. They're being fooled because they can't see the divine in everyone. So, beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone that loves is born, that means created. This is the last page. It's the last page of your notes. I just jumped there and we're going to jump back. Is born of God and knows God. He that loveth not doesn't know God. Doesn't know God. Doesn't know God. Because God is love. Knowing God is loving ourselves and loving others as one. It is label-free. That's right. You're loving someone label-free, judgment-free, condemnation-free. You're loving them with just as they are, as this divine beauty and revelation who they are. And you look for that. You see that. Get your eyes off the worldly appearances and look for the divinity in one another. Start seeing God in everyone. Do you see God in that tree? Or do you see that tree as, well, it's in our way and we're going to cut it down, and I see it as a weed. I see it as shedding leaves. I see it as a bother. I see it as trouble. Or do we see it as God, a revelation of God? Is the bird a bother? Is the squirrel a bother? Is the grass a bother? Is the world around you a bother? Or is it God, a revelation of the divine? You see, it's when we start shifting everything, we then start loving God. Because God is all. Everything is God. Everything. And if you can't love everything, you don't know God. You don't love God. So we can't preach, we can't teach, we can't say that we are these things when we are not loving to the fullest extent everything and everyone. So to that child that acts up and is a big old brat, hey, you see the divine in them. To that person in work who is causing problems, you see the divine in them. To that person who's hurt you, you see the divine in them. David Carter has a question or a comment coming in.
Okay, so all things, all people are divine, all is God. Okay, and Neville Goddard says the very same thing. Everything is God, and he says God is the only actor. So whether it's Hitler, whether it's Jesus, whether it's Muhammad, whether it's the mall shooter, all is God. And God is the only actor because all of us are God. But how do you look at that without using words that are condemning? Let's just take Hitler, for instance. Hitler is God just as much as we are God. Okay. But how do you look at it without labeling him? I mean, you see, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
How do you?
We see the divinity within,
Right.
But we also can see how the wound of life, the klipot, has covered that divinity. But we acknowledge Hitler and all who have gone crimes as a divine creation of God within, but wounded. It's kind of like what we're called to do in the world of medicine is that when someone comes in who has been in a car accident, we don't see them as the wound, we see them as healed. And the journey is to help them to their healed state. So we don't call and say, oh my God, stay away from that person. He had his right arm taken off. What did the doctors and nurses do? But they address his wholeness and begin to find ways to put that arm back on, shall we say. When there is a gash or a cut, they're trying to heal that cut, to bring that person back to their original state, shall we say. The true state, the true nature of being whole. So it is when we see Hitler, we may use him as an example, what we would like to do if we were addressing him is to call forth the good and to look beyond. You know, there's that song, he looked beyond my faults and saw my need. I don't know if you know that or have heard that song in maybe church communities. We're looking behind the faults of every one another, and we're seeing the true need that needs to be healed. We're not like, oh, I'm grossed out by this gash in your body. I'm grossed out about the blood. I can't deal with you. All you are is blood, 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 blood. No, all you are is this person that needs healing, and I'm here to help heal that.
But don't you need to acknowledge what is so that you can begin the process of putting it back together like it should be? I mean,
so we need to acknowledge the faults, is what you're saying, or we need to call out the faults in one another?
no, well, I mean, we're called to do that to some degree, but we're in love,
Right.
not in judgment and condemnation.
Yes, we offer guidance and instruction to everyone. Spare the rod and spoil the child is the passage of scripture. And the rod is not what you beat the child with. The rod is the rod of guidance, the rod of truth. So what we want to do is always direct and offer guidance, truth, and instruction that opens the gateway for someone's great success, rather than closing the gateway with condemnation, guilt, and saying, I'm going to name 5 things that you do wrong.
Right.
I'm going to say, here's 5 things that I know you can do right. So it's a different approach. It's from the negative over to the positive. So when we sit down a child, we don't punish them by, let's beat the dickens out of them, a good old-fashioned whipping to show that they know the fear of mom and dad. Instead, we sit down the child and say, I want you to sit still, and I want you to think for a minute, and you can name what you could have done better. Okay, I want you to stop and think there. And when you acknowledge what your error was and how you might have done better, that's offering the instruction for the child. The beating just says, I'm not sure I know what I did, but I know if I do it again, I'm going to have pain. But the instruction of truth says, I know how to act better, and I don't have to endure pain. I don't need pain. Is not part of my life. It doesn't have to be part of my life. But my parents feel like pain is the only way that they can teach. And where we get this, I don't know. But okay.
Okay, so let's shift the example to our board of directors. In the board covenant, it talks about the standard that we're held to, and that if one of the board members is not maintaining that we have a duty to call that out and address it, but address it in love. So you are calling it out, but you're addressing it lovingly.
There we go. The key option right here is how we do it lovingly. So we say, I'm going to name what you're doing bad as a board of directors, or how about with love, could we not do this? And how about opening the doors and making this, would this not be a better solution for us? Rather than, you did that stupid, ignorant way, that was shameful. Instead, we would say, here's a better path. So it's all on how we speak. We call forth the good versus calling forth the negative or the bad. Okay. Norma.
Going back to Hitler.
Yes.
At some point, don't you have to stop the bad?
Well,
Didn't we need to go over there to stop him from killing more people? Or?
Right. So, yes. So what we want to do is, we're using Hitler as an example, as an individual. When we go to that individual and we're offering healing, positive words, we're creating an environment for change. We're going to learn that as we raise our consciousness to a higher vibrational level, when you're vibrating at this level, other things will begin to vibrate at that level too, okay? So it would have been lovely if the people that surrounded Hitler at the time of his life were there to help and to call forth the good. It's sad that somewhere in his life, in his childhood or his upbringing, something happened that caused him to lose sight of the good. Instead, he saw his arrogance, the Aryan race, as being, the best, and to oppress others. Right. So, I mean, yes, we want to stop good, like as we went to war happened because of that, to stop the aggression. But what we really want to do is if we can get back to the core, if someone had gotten to Hitler, there would be no reason for us to go to war, right? So if we can get down to the root of things and heal the root, rather always working from the outside, let's get down to the root. So it would be, offering this kind of help and support to one another. So let's had all kinds of trauma off at the past, headed off at the past, by being those who are always imparting the good, calling forth the good. So if you see a child that is temperamental and could be acting up, start correcting it now rather than let that child go through the rest of its life dealing with whatever hurt and wound it's dealing with that's causing it to act up. Let's get to that child now. Let's get to that potential Hitler in advance. That's really the work that we need to be doing. So when we address the issues of the wounded and the hurt and that are people going through in life with calling forth the good and the healing and the ministering to that, and here's the story of the Good Samaritan. There are people who saw the man wounded by the wayside, but just said, I'm too busy. I got to go here. I got other things. I don't want to get touched by that. I don't want to be included in that mess. That's too dirty. Excuses. And that's so much in our life. We see someone who's going through some emotional issues or wounded, and we go, stay away from me. I don't want to deal with it. Rather than saying, oh, here's a Good Samaritan moment. I need to step in and try to administer some loving care and do some healing work with that person. David Carter, and then we'll go to Ann.
Okay, so let's go back to what Norma's question was. So I understand that you try to get to the Hitler before they become the person that he grew into out of his woundedness. Okay, so the Allied forces' response to Hitler was to send in troops to stop the situation. But that was their level of spiritual, shall we say, awakening, the Allied forces as a whole. Okay, so when you get to a situation, let's say the Middle East right now, and you said as we raise our level of consciousness, we raise the consciousness of the world. Okay. In that, how do you stop the wars? Let's say what's currently going on.
Yeah.
How do we as people of consciousness raise our consciousness to a level that the response of the people who respond to situations like that will want to respond in love instead of saying we got to attack aggression with aggression?
Yes, and one of our core problems, what's the basis of war? A lot of people might say it's religion. What it is fear of someone who's different.
Right.
So we may look at someone's different viewpoint, someone's different position in life. And so we want to attack their view because it's not our view. It's not the way we want to live. So we're looking at, again, putting a label, a should on them. And because we put so many labels and shoulds that we can't deal with, we go to war and we want to defeat them. We want to destroy them. We want to destroy things that don't fit, that make us feel comfortable for who we are and what we want the world to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if we're going to eradicate war, it's going to start by letting go of the labels and the shoulds, our expectations, So I was in Minneapolis and, the salesperson was a Somali wearing a buoy all wrapped up in black. And, the response from the person in front of me was like, ooh, should she be working here? I mean, should she? Because, she's not dressed like the rest of us. She's like different and she represents what we don't think is right. We think she represents a different way of thinking, of lifestyle and living. She's not a feminist woman wearing a fabulous little outfit, perky little Western girl. She's wearing this buoy. She's not thinking like we think. The should, because we're always thinking someone is not what we think they should be. Lethe.
I think I'm jumping on hers again, because my hearing is not. I think what I hear from her is how do we stop it? This war, this thing's going on. Are we saying that we need to raise in a multitude unity our consciousness to eliminate that way of thinking?
Right.
I
So,
think that's what I'm hearing.
as an example, in the Middle East right now, in Israel and the Palestinians, there's such fear of each other.
Yeah.
So the Israelis are frightened of the Palestinians, so they build 30-foot walls and create reservations to put the Palestinians in for walls. The Palestinians respond in fear of the Israelis, and you've got tit for tat, just escalating, going on, and that war will be there forever until we begin to stop and say, wait a minute, I can remove fear by removing the label. the should. You should be like me, and you should be like me. You see, that's that should. The Palestinian says, you Israelis should be living like we do in Palestine. And the Palestinians, the Israelis look at Palestinians, you should be like us. We're afraid of you because you're different. And because that difference rises up within our world, we alienate, and we've got chaos in the Middle East. So how do we get that? We've got to sit down and acknowledge people's differences, uniqueness. And how do we do that? By getting right to the core. Let's bypass all things, go to the core and say, the God in me sees the God in you. I see the divinity. I see the good in you. And I'm going to acknowledge. Let's acknowledge what good is happening in Palestinian life. Let's let the Palestinian acknowledge what's good is happening in Israeli life. Let's start talking about what we have in common and what their good there is versus what we have against each other. And we begin to de-escalate the energy. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Let's go to Ann. Ann's question.
Two things now. The first is I read the other day, it's awfully hard to make a decision if you're hungry. And right away I thought of the homeless dinner and how we feed the homeless. But it's really a metaphor for exactly what you're saying. Unless you can feed someone neat, because I'm a nurse and we've been taught to be neat. And then this came to me and I said, that's a label. I can't use that label. So then I switched over to, these are the sloppiest divine beings I've ever met in my life. And if Brenda had been there, I would have said it to her, but I didn't say it out loud. And then I said, wait a minute, I think what we're talking about is responsibility. What are you going to do about that? So I started, without saying anything, just neatening things up. And along came somebody and said, wow, this is really coming together. And I thought, our responsibility is to raise our consciousness and do something. Whatever it is that's bothering you, do something. Nobody stood in the way of Hitler, Nobody, I don't know why, he kind of had them brainwashed, and a lot of people claimed they didn't even know what was going on, and what I've read anyway. So I think we're addressing responsibility, what our individual responsibility is.
Beautiful. Let's continue on. On the bottom of page 4, to love someone is to know God as them. Really. That's how you love someone. Now, you don't love them because of what they do for you. You don't love them for how they make you feel. What you really understand is to know them as God being revealed to you. That's the depth of loving someone. That's really understanding. To love them, not what they do for you, not for how they think or how they should be or how, but to recognize them as God. No matter what. I just see you as God. That's how you love someone unconditionally. That's how it's done. You don't put any conditions on it. You don't put any labels. You don't put any shoulds. It's just, I love you because you are a revelation of God. And I want to tell you this. Everyone in some aspect has the power and can, or at some time has revealed the power and presence of God. It's within us. Hitler may have done it as a child. Something jaded him. Something turned him around. When he was 4, I don't think he was a dictator in his home. And I don't think he was commanding all kinds of things. Or at 3, at age whatever. I'm sure there was a time when that light of love and truth was really there, but something jades it. So start seeing God. Start living what you now see, what we now see in each one. And as you do, you raise the vibration, and it is to a transformational level. I see amazing things in you. Okay, I see the divine in you. I see God in you. And when we start doing that, we're raising the vibrational level that pulls everyone up to that higher vibrational level. It's like the soprano soloist. Oh, she sings at the high tone and all of a sudden the glass shatters, right? Why does it shatter? Because it's matching that vibrational level on the frequency of her voice. And that high pitch shatters the glass. It matches. So it is this high vibrational consciousness of love that we see in one another. will raise. It'll raise it up. It'll bring forth. I tell people in marriage counseling all the time, you have the power to create a wonderful spouse, a lover, a nirvana in a relationship. As you begin to raise your level of affirmation in their life, they rise to it. So I was just dealing with a couple while I was in Minneapolis and talking with them about loving relationships. And I advise people, always tell people reasons why you love each other. Because as you do, you're calling forth the love that you see within them. The why. Why do you love them? I love them because of the way you've done this, or how you've touched my life, or the way you treat me, or these kind of things. You're explaining to them. You're calling forth, this is the level of vibration, and they're drawing to it. They're pulling to it, and they will soon match it. But if you keep saying, you know what, I wish you'd love me more because, you didn't take the trash out, and and this is what's wrong with you, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do that, and before you know it, you're tearing you down, and you're lowering the vibrational level of your own self, and you're lowering the vibrational level in this relationship. So if you really want the world around you to experience the love and be loving, you just start the work right now, calling forth the good, calling forth, and it'll rise to meet that vibrational level. People are they're all doing the best that they know how. So before we get too judgmental about a scripture when we're looking at someone else, and I want to reframe this, I'm not trying to be judgmental or condemn others, as we're just pointing out in teaching, that there are those in the world who are not loving because they don't truly know or see love of God in others. Let's not get so arrogant that we fall into the play where we're condemning them either, okay? So I want to repent of any kind of judgment or condemnations that we might have put on other people because of this illustration. Because they're all doing the best of what they know. That's the challenge. They're doing the best of what they know. How will they know better? By us being the light. By us being the example. By us shining the light on their pathway. That's how. Not by judging, not by condemning them. They're doing the best that they know how to do based on their level of understanding. And so what we want to do is shine the light on them. So we want to be the example of love, not the example of like, well, you hurt me, I'll hurt you, not tit for tat in our life, but to go the extra mile, to be there to demonstrate, to be the light for someone else's life with a heart of compassion for them. Because they're limited in their understanding. They probably don't even love themselves. So how can they see the love of others? And if you come from a religion in particular that I grew up in that didn't teach me that there was any love of God in me. In fact, my whole upbringing was, when I began to question my sexual orientation, was, my father, who is my pastor, and my dad, telling me in sermons that God found gay people to be an abomination. And he described that as something that would make God throw up. Well, suddenly I knew I'm not gay because I don't make God throw up. I feel the love of God in me. So I can't be gay, so I don't know what I am. I was utterly confused about my sexual orientation throughout life because I'm like, what they're describing, I know that I'm not because my experience with the divine is wonderful. Yet they wanted to dump and teach me, you're trash, you're disgusting, you're an abomination. God finds you something that God would just be so disgusted and throw up at. It's so gross that you are. Well, I didn't own that because I already knew the love of God in me. You see, but our society wants to constantly teach us to look at the dark side of us rather than the light within us that's already there. So I'm going to go on to we're going to move to page 5 in the middle there. Here's a wonderful illustration. It would be best if we threw away the clock. You know what? Because the divine self always has been, is, and always will be, and does not express in time, but this divine self supports you in this experience you're going through. We're always looking at time. We're always, time conscious. And we're suddenly, every birthday, we're growing older and we dread it because we're time conscious. And it would be really great if we just threw away the clock, Let's just avoid all consciousness of time, because we're thinking you only have so much time on this earth. You only have, 90 years or whatever it may be that life gives you. You only have this. Throw the clock away, because you always have been. You are now, and you always will be. So there's no time when it comes to your divine self. There really isn't any. And our higher consciousness is timeless. There is no time to mandate you must do this in this lifetime. This is the only lifetime you get. And that's where our clock says you only get this and that's all you get. You've been around for gazillions of years from the beginning of time. However, we can't even find a number for that. You are, and you always will be. So there's going to be these opportunities for growth to happen over and over again. Lifetimes to be experienced. For you to evolve. So a lot of times people say, well, okay, that's not a good teaching because that means I can be lazy in this life. Just know that throughout eternity, your progression is up to you. It is your responsibility. You could live 90 years in one lifetime, or you could live 90 lifetimes in 1 year. It's your choice. It's all about you and what you want to choose. So I want to tell you this. It's really important that we, in italics here, offer this thought that you'll find in your note page. I align to my potential as I express beyond time, beyond fear, beyond the dictates of culture, or to what I've claimed for myself or believe myself to be. I release whatever may stand in my way. I claim I am free from all labels. I am free from others. I'm from all of their labels that we put on us. I see all as God. And the truth sets us free from the bondages of fear, separation, hate, anger, and rage. Let me tell you this. All this fear that comes to us, you know what? The divine within you is fearless. Why are we fearful? Now, there's a difference between, I want to make clarification. There is something called respect that we label as fear. We have a respect of gravity. We have a respect of traffic out there. We have a respect of the stop sign. And some people may label that as fear, but I'd like to say that is respect. Then there's fear that is terror. That is totally different. Okay? So when people say, well, fear is healthy, that fear that we're talking that's healthy is a respect of things that could cause harm. I respect the snake. I don't step on it. I don't, antagonize it. I don't whatever. I have respect. So then there's no fear. I'm not in terror when I respect. Does that make sense? Yeah. So when we understand that, there's a big difference. So I want to really close then with this last thought because time's getting away. But you may know God as who that you are, but you will never be God at the exclusion of others. Okay, you may know God as the who that you are. In other words, I'm a divine child. But you'll never be God when you exclude someone else. You can't be God and be exclusionary. It's not possible because God is all and all is God. So you will never know God if you discount the God in others. You may pray to God, but until you forgive others for not being who you want them to be, your prayer may fall flat. You've got to let go of the shoulds and the labels because those are things that are holding you back from your personal success and the shoulds and the labels you put on the world around you and on others. Because what happens is a should and a label creates exclusion. You're not what I want you to be. You're not what you should be. You should have done this. You should be that because that's what I need you to be. Okay? But know that that kind of experience is one that's exclusionary and you can never be the expression of God to the fullest that you're called to be when you exclude anyone. So as we close then, we just looked at page number 6 with that beautiful passage of scripture about love. Just know this, that when we remove all these labels and all these shoulds and all these judgments and all these condemnations, what's left is the freedom to love someone unconditionally. How amazing that is, to just love. Just love. No shoulds, no labels, no expectations. No, you have to be this to make me happy. No, you have to let go of that. You have to change your life to bring contentment to me. It's just, I love. Then you are the divine. Then you are the revelation of God. Well, thanks so much for being with us today in our class session. And I have enjoyed sharing with you all the insights of this beautiful chapter that really has given us some powerful truths of understanding how to really release the shoulds of our past, the ideas of our past, the cultures of our past, all of these things, and just awaken to the God that's within each and every one of us. So I'd love to hear from you. What's your takeaway? So for those of you who are joining us through our class experience on live streaming, I'd love it if you take a moment right now to write out a comment. Dr. David Carter will be reading it, sharing with me. What's your takeaway from this class? What spoke to you? What really ministered to you today? Greatly appreciate hearing from you. We love to have that interaction. While we're waiting to hear from you, we're going to go around our classroom and hear from our students who've gathered with us in the in-person experience. And by the way, this wonderful in-person experience offers a lot of great energy, a lot of great loving experience with one another, and you know what? We go out to lunch and we have a good time. So we want to encourage you to come on, join us in this class experience and enjoy the fellowship and the camaraderie and the opportunity to lift and build each other up. It's a great experience. So let's go around the room and let's hear from our students. How about we start over here with Dr. David Carter?
My takeaway is I release all labels and I align with my Christ itself.
Ooh, I love that. It's a big task, but we're going to do it, right? We're going to release all labels. We're going to let go of judgments and condemnations. We're going to let go of all that stuff, the masks that we put on everybody else. We're going to set ourselves free, amen? Beautiful. Steve, what's your takeaway?
That at least we did touch on the recognition that there's a difference between respect and fear or terror. I think we use the word fear like another word for terror. So,
yeah.
But there is a difference between respect and fear. And,
right.
And we need to, look more into that and understand it more.
Yes.
I don't think a lot of people in society understand the difference.
Right. The scripture says the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. That means it doesn't mean I'm terrified of God. I'm frightened of his power and punishment. I'm afraid that God's going to get me or lightning bolts are going to strike from heaven. No, the fear is the respect for the wonderful spiritual laws, how God operates. It is a reverence. That's what it really is. A respect of God is the beginning of wisdom. That means I take it seriously, let's not flippant or whatever. There is a respect there. That word has many beautiful components in that passage that we don't really look at. Beautiful. Thanks, Steve. All right, let's go to Anne.
Okay, stop the denial of inherent divinity. I am divine. That is not ego. That cleared something up for me.
Good.
That which is the small self. And the other thing I was hesitating saying was bull should.
Bullshit. All right. All right. There we go. All right. Let's go to Lethe. What's your takeaway?
I'm so happy that I'm taking this class because the book is not easy for me to understand. So you're, analyzing and dissecting and getting into it. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
But I do want to say that I have been so guilty of the shoulds. But I don't think I'm guilty in a meaning way, hateful. But from now on, I will be mindful of how I use that word, the should, because I didn't know I was being judgmental or condemning. So that's my takeaway.
Yeah. When we get rid of the shoulds, what have we got left but just unconditional love? And that's much more pleasurable and much more joyous. The shoulds always put all kinds of expectations and what we think someone else should be.
Yeah.
Designers all think every woman should be, a size 0, 2, whatever. And, they think you should be. And they're designing clothes for that kind of woman. And women are going to start say, wait, I don't want those shoulds anymore. Let me be me, right? Let me just be whatever. So, we understand our world is full, and that's just one example of many of what the shoulds be. How about me being me and my unique self, and me being a unique facet of this diamond that reflects the divine in my own unique way? All right, let's go to Brenda. What's your takeaway?
Once we are enlightened, this world can be our heaven. But if we hold any kind of judgment against somebody else, we can't be God then. So we have to make sure that we're not holding, even though we may not be conscious of it, that we're not holding a judgment against somebody else.
Yeah.
So every day we have to renew our thinking and become a new person.
Yes, beautiful. Excellent. Let's go to Norma.
Well, I like the conversation about Hitler.
Okay.
To me, he sets the bar for fear. And I feel like if I could get an angle on how to handle that fear before it becomes a major problem and it takes a war to create peace again, I think that would go a long way towards creating peace.
Good. All right. Excellent. Let's go to Dave.
After hearing today's wonderful lesson, I have come to the conclusion that my dad was the king of the should-bes. Because he gave me so many things in life that was pushing me to be better. And it's kind of like Lethe said. He wasn't doing it in a sense of being vicious or mean. He was doing it to make me better. That's my comment. My takeaway is, forget the should-bes in life and know we are the divine expression of God, that we are holy.
Yes. Let's just acknowledge what everyone is right now. Right now, you all are beautiful. You're all divine lights. That's who you really are. Let's just forget all the error and the mistakes that we made of our 29 years, because we're all so young, here in this room, Let's just all celebrate just who we are right now. And the beauty of that is beautiful. Let's go to Amy.
I like the could instead of should thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of used to do that with my kids too. Instead of you shouldn't do that, you say, well, you could do this, or actually I put it in a choice. You can't do this, but you can do this and this. You pick which one. That was something that reminded me of it. But another thing is I think you have to love yourself before you can know God. I mean, other than knowing God in nature, I think a lot of the problems with mean people, Hitlers and all that, is that they didn't love themselves.
Right.
And I think we're our heaviest critics to ourselves, and we're always finding things wrong with ourselves. We need to just love who we are, warts and all. And then liberating myself from fear is the most useful aspect of realizing who I really am, which is an extension of God. Liberate yourself from fear. Don't be afraid of everything, but be respectful, like you said, of traffic on a street, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Just when you say, throw caution to the wind, doesn't mean jump off a bridge and expect to survive. But quit being so ruled by fear.
Yep.
Fear is the killer. It's what makes you doubt yourself and doubt everybody around you. So, anyway.
Beautiful.
I can just go on and on.
I love it.
But it was a lot better with Lethe, too.
Yeah.
I don't know how you got all of this out of that chapter, because
Yes, I will agree. The first couple of 5 pages this morning, last night I was reading, like, whoa, what did he just say? And I had to take a marker and pick out a word and okay, I understand the theme. But the sentence structure and the approach and the kind of the rambling on, I think you just said that in the last page, but okay. And it was like, okay, let's pull it all out. And it's there. He's got some wonderful nuggets. It's just, a challenge to read sometimes.
Yeah.
And if you don't read it, that's okay. We'll discuss it. How's that?
Let's hope when you're in the spirit world, if somebody channels you, you can.
Yes.
You'll get it down in a half the time.
That's right. Let's cut to the quick, folks. I'm going to channel real quick. Yeah. All right. Anything from Delia or others?
Diane Mundine.
Diane Mundine.
Her takeaway is to change her shoulds to coulds and continue to work on her ability to love to achieve the divine.
Wonderful. Thank you, Diane. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate everyone joining us through live streaming and through our YouTube channel, City of Light Atlanta, as well as the in-person experience. We're growing in numbers in our classes, and we're excited as people are returning, coming back into the classroom experience. We love it when everyone can join with us and have that personal touch. So we look forward to seeing you all next week, whether through live streaming or through the in-person experience. We know that God is doing something amazing in everybody's life as we study and learn. We study to show ourselves approved, meaning the scripture says, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, meaning that we don't need to be embarrassed because we are understanding truth and we're living to the highest level that we can. That's why we're studying. That's why we seek together. We appreciate it. Now, if you enjoyed today's class or any of our classes, we certainly appreciate your support. The Emerson Institute at City of Light is growing, and it is supported by the wonderful contributions of so many who generously give. If you'd like to make a donation, you can go to our website at www.cityoflightatlanta.com and offer your gifts. There's a donate button. Just click on it and share with us your contributions. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you for your support of these classes. We appreciate your attendance, your faithfulness, and of course, your contributions. God bless you. We'll see you all next week.